In this video I'm going to teach you how to build this kind of form right here inside Excel, using artificial intelligence. And this one I managed to build without writing a single line of code. In this video I'll show you exactly the step-by-step for you to follow and get this same result. This is a product registration form that interacts with the data from a spreadsheet. But you could also use a database. This one specifically is going to work with the data inside a spreadsheet. And from here you can do create, update, and delete operations. You can also do a text search right here. So if I type anything here, it'll filter based on the products I already have registered. There are also some buttons here you can use to edit. You can also delete the record if you want. And down here it's a bit faded because there's a filter on top, but these are pages. So you can navigate through pages. If you have a lot of products registered, it'll create buttons here to make navigation easier. Okay, so how exactly can you create this kind of design? Because this one, guys, was built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this design you're seeing here was made with web technologies. Except I'm using it inside Excel. How is that possible? Well, first you need to understand that this project isn't in VBA. It's a project we call a VSTO Workbook. So there's no way to create this kind of design using just VBA. So what I do is use a code editor that we call Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a code editor that lets you build applications for Microsoft apps, like Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. And with that you get a lot more resources to build much more modern applications. So this application you're seeing here is an application built in C# that uses web technologies inside the form. Thanks to a control we call WebView2. And all of this lives inside the editor, and you can use it natively. And like I said, it also lets you build applications using artificial intelligence, without needing to know how to code, okay? So that's what I'm going to show you here in this video. So I'm going to close all of this. Notice, I didn't even mention it, but this form is fully responsive. Check it out, so it keeps the dimensions of the fields and the form as a whole. And this here, if you were to do it directly in VBA, is pretty complicated. But using web technologies, you get all these possibilities that make things a lot easier. So let's go. I'm going to close this application and start one from scratch. First, I need you to understand that you'll absolutely need Visual Studio, which is a code editor you'll need to download and install on your machine. I already have it installed here, but I'll leave the link for you to download and install it. This here is the 2026 version. I'm using the 2020 version. Whatever version you use is going to work the same way. The version you'll need to download is this one, the community version. And it's also the most widely used version. It's free, you just click here to download it. I'll click and you'll notice it starts downloading the file up here. What you'll need to do now is click on this file to start the installation. Like I said, I already have it installed here on my machine, but I'll help you out too. When you run this file, it won't actually install the editing tool yet. It'll download another file that you use to manage what you're going to install on your machine, which is this file I'm going to show you now, the Visual Studio installer. So, what are you going to do? You're going to install this guy and then open it to, well, start installing Visual Studio. So I have the 2022 version. I said it was 2020, but it's actually 2022. And here you'll see the package options for you to install, which is exactly the one I'm going to show you here. So for that I'm going to click on Modify here. And I'll show you the packages you'll need to download on your machine. The packages are these two right here. The first one is this one. So, remember to check this one. This is going to let you create forms, right? .NET. And they're going to be used inside Excel. And you'll also need to check this option here. It's the one that lets you build applications for the Microsoft apps, like Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So, remember to also check this option. After you check it, you'll click Install and the process will start. Once you install it, then we'll start building the tool. Remember I said, or if I didn't, I'll say it now, that I use two editors. This Visual Studio editor is just for starting the Excel project. After I start it, and the initial files are created, I use another editor with AI built in. In this case, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, which also lets you build applications using AI, as long as you have an AI built into it. So with that, you can use any editor. I'm going to be using this one because I like using Claude Code. So, if you want to use another editor, feel free. For this part, you can use whatever you're most comfortable with. So let's go. To start the application, we'll need to open Visual Studio. So, let's load up Visual Studio here. Here you'll click on Create a New Project. And here, to make it easier and speed up the process, you can just filter by the word Excel. Here, like I said, you've got the option of two languages. You can use the C# language, or you can use Visual Basic. I'm going to use C#. And the project we're going to create is this one. Excel VSTO Workbook. For those who don't know, it's a regular Excel workbook file. So I'm going to select it. Then, I'll click the Next button. Here, you can give your project a name. So I'm going to call it products_CRUD. I'll click Create. In case you already have a file and you just want to modify that file, you can select this option. And then browse for that file. I'm going to create one from scratch. And the extension I'm going to use is a regular Excel workbook. I'll click OK. With that, it'll go ahead and create the initial structure of your VSTO project. This blue window always opens when you create a new project. And I always close it, and I recommend you do the same. So, here's your project. The first thing I'm going to do is add a form here. I'll right-click. Let's go to the Add option. And here it'll show you the form option. So, I'm going to click on this button. Here you can give your form a name. So I'm going to call it products_CRUD. And I'll click Add. It went ahead and created the form here. I'll bump up its size a little bit here. And now here we need to add a control we call WebView2. It's this control that lets you embed an HTML file inside it. So, I'm going to go here to Project. In the Project tab. And I'll click on the Package Manager. I click the Search button. And here I'm going to search for WebView2. And I'll install this first option right here. I'll click Install. I click Apply. And it's going to add that reference, that library into my project. I can close this. I select the form again. And here inside the toolbox, you'll now see WebView2 right here. So, I'm going to drag it in here. And with it selected, I'll go to Properties. And I'll select the Dock option. And I'll set this option that lets the control expand across the whole form. In other words, so it fills the entire body of the form. There we go. This is the setup you need to do. Now, what you're going to do is import your front end in here, which is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file you created. So you have two options. Either you import a file you already have, or you can use it later. The same tool I'll be using here to build the project. Using artificial intelligence, you can use it to create your HTML. Since I already have mine created, and I'll recommend it too. The way I developed it. In my case, I use Claude Code. I use Claude Design to build this form. With just a prompt, it'll create this one for you, as long as you specify the fields you'll need to use. So I already have this file. It's here on my desktop. Inside a folder, I've got the 3 files right here. I can even open this file. You'll notice it shows exactly the form we're going to be using. So I'll close it. And I'll need to import these files into my project. So here I'll right-click. I'll click on Add a new folder. And I'll rename this folder Frontend. Then I'll right-click on the folder. Add, and here I'll choose Existing Item. And I'll navigate to where my folder is. Click this option here so it shows all the files. Select the 3 files. Click Add. Now notice they'll show up right here for you. Now what you'll need to do is select them one by one. And you'll look for the copy to output directory parameter. And you'll set it for all 3. This option right here, copy always. So I do that for the HTML. I do the same for the JavaScript file. And also for the styling file, which in this case is the CSS file. There, you've got it configured. Now you need to tell your form that this file needs to be embedded in here. So, that's done through a bit of simple code I've got here. So I'll right-click here on the form. I'll click View Code. And here you're going to add a method, okay? This method is going to go right below here of the constructor, which is this block right here. This method. Since you'll download the file, you won't need to worry about this part. But this is code that creates a file to start up the WebView2 control. Okay, so it'll create it inside this repository named CRUD_products. And here on this line of code, you'll specify where your HTML is located. Ours is in here inside the frontend folder. So, write the folder name here, which is frontend, the name of the file I want it to embed. The HTML file's name is index. So, you'll put index here, followed by its extension, which is HTML. Alright, after you paste this block, you'll need to initialize it inside the constructor here. So, I'll paste the method here. And now it'll load as soon as I start up this form. But remember this, you're inside an Excel project. So, for this form to open, you'll need some kind of initial trigger. Let me show you. So, if I load this project, since it's an Excel workbook project, it loads an Excel file. So, I need a button in here to open that form. That's what I'm going to show you here. It's pretty simple. You'll right-click here on the project. And you'll add a new item of the ribbon Visual Designer type. I'll click Add. And here I'll basically add a button. I select this button. I'll increase its size here. You can also change its text. I'll put here Open Form. You can add an icon too, if you want. And this tab, I'll change its style to a custom tab. And I'll also change where it starts up. I'll say it's going to start before the Home tab. Then I'll double-click on this button. And here we'll add the code that's going to load that form of ours. So, for that, I'll declare a variable here that represents my form. My form's name is productos_CRUD. I'll call the variable CRUD. and I'll say it starts out as null here. After that, I'll initialize this variable as a new instance of my product. And here, when you click this button, we'll do a check to see if this form is not null. Actually, I'll change this here. If it's equal to null, I'll have it create this new instance here too. And down here, we'll use the method to show this form. Let's see if it works. Let me load it up. The project. Let's click here on the form. So notice it'll show us the form right here. The size came out kinda small, so it shrank the proportions there. But we can change that by going right into the form and bumping up the size of this form here. And while I'm at it, I'll add some other properties too, like, for example, on startup. Here you can change the icon, alright folks, if you want to. And you can also change its position here on startup. I want it to always open up centered. Let's test it again. Click the button. And check it out. So you can also set a size. But this form is responsive too. So you can make it bigger or smaller right here. Alright, so notice it's working. But it's still using temporary data here, right? Sample data that came inside the HTML file. What you need now is to create two-way communication between JavaScript and C#. So you can interact with the data here from an Excel spreadsheet. And that's where the second editor comes in. And I'll show you how to set that up. First, I'll go back into the project, okay? Let's pause this application's execution. And now I'll right-click. Let's click on Open. They're at the project's root. So you're gonna copy this directory. After you copy it, you'll bring it over to the second editor. So I'll open up the other editor here. In this case, it's VS Code. You're gonna click on File. Let's click on Open Folder here. I'll hand it the directory here. And I'll click Select Folder. I'll click Trust. And now I've got Claude Code available here. So here I can select the model. Let's pick Opus 4.8. And here you can basically ask for whatever you want done. I recommend you come back here. Do a little cleanup so it clears out the bin folder, right? Which is the folder that got compiled. And here you're gonna drop in your prompt. This prompt will be available to you. It's the same one I used, along with all the project files. So basically you drop in your prompt here. Run it. What's it gonna do? It'll read through all the files. It'll read the code you already have. It'll look at the front end, since that's already specified. And it'll set up the communication directly for it. With you using Opus 4.8 here as the model. On the first try, it can handle the whole automation. If you're using a slightly weaker model, then I recommend writing a slightly more detailed prompt, okay? Don't forget the spreadsheet. You need to tell it the spreadsheet's name. So I'll load the project up again here. And you'll notice the spreadsheet is called Spreadsheet 1. So that's the name it'll take into account. If it's a specific name, you'll need to give it here inside your prompt too. Well, that's it. The download, like I said, will be there in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to drop a like here and leave a comment and share it with other people.